Hello and welcome. This is going to be a very basic, complete end-to-end demo on a Scrum project. This is going to be very easy, very interesting, and this is going to be a very useful session for you. So in this session, I'm going to show you a complete end-to-end demo of a Scrum project, starting from creating a project, then how do we create the backlog, how do we plan the sprints, how do we create issues from the backlog, how do we move the issues to the sprint, how do we start the sprint, plan the sprint, and then all the things we do in a Scrum project step by step from scratch. So this is going to be very useful. I will suggest that do not miss any part of this video. In the starting, I will show you the concepts, the theory, and then I will show you practically how do we do it in Jira. So we will start by creating a Scrum project. We will create a backlog, then we will create sprint, and then we will start the sprint. We will add the duration, we will define the duration and goals of the sprint. We will then complete the sprint and see what we do in sprint review and retrospective, and then how do we do the reporting. So in this session, you will get a complete hands-on experience of working with end-to-end Scrum project in Jira. So let's get started. Now, first let me tell you at a very high level in a Scrum project, what all do we do? It starts with a project initiation or project setup. Then we have backlog creation. In a moment, I will explain you each of these terms. So in the backlog creation, we add issues related to all the requirements we have to do in the project. Then we do sprint planning. So in Scrum project, we can have multiple sprints of a defined duration. Then we start the sprint. Then we have the sprint execution phase where we work on the issues, on the tasks, and update them on the Jira board. Then we do, after we have completed the sprint, we do the review of the sprint and we do meetings, and then we have sprint retrospective meetings, and then finally this process is repeated for all the sprints of the project, and then when all the sprints are completed, we complete and close the project. So these are the phases of a Scrum project. Now when we talk about project setup, this is the phase, the starting phase, where we plan the project, we do the project initiation. Here we define the project's scope, purpose, we take all the requirements and we plan everything. We plan the team, decide the team, and then we start the project. Okay, then once we have got all the requirements of the project, we know the goal of the project and all the details, we do backlog creation. Now backlog creation is, here we create the issues like stories, tasks, bugs based on the requirements and based on the things we have to complete in the project. And we can also prioritize the items in the backlog by moving them up or down. I will show you this in a moment. So this is what is backlog creation. Here we create issues based on all the things we have to complete in the project. Then after this, we do sprint planning. Here the teams meet and we decide for completing this particular project, how many sprints are needed, what will be the duration of each sprint. For example, if we decide that this project can be completed in 1 month, we can have 4 sprints of 1 week each duration, or based on the requirements, we can design and define the duration of the sprints. Then we take the items from the backlog, the issues from the backlog, and then we can drag and drop them in the sprints. So we can say that in sprint number 1 what all things we will do, in sprint number 2 what all things we will do, and so on. We will keep on adding the items or the issues in the sprints. Okay, then after this, after we have added all the backlog items or whatever issues we have to add to the sprint, we can define the length of the sprint and the goal of the sprint, and then we start the sprint. Okay, after that we work in the sprints. The team members work on their assigned tasks, and as they work on their task, they will update the task on Jira, and everything will be there on the Jira board. Also on a daily basis, here we conduct daily stand-up meetings. So generally in corporates, every day in the morning we have these daily stand-up meetings. It can be in the morning or the evening or whatever time. Generally we have in the start of the day, where all the team members meet and they discuss the progress they have done, if there are any blockers, what are the next steps. So they have a very good communication and everyone knows what is going on in the project. So this is one very, very important and useful part and feature of a Scrum project, that the entire team works in collaboration. Everyone has knowledge of what is going on in the project, where is everyone in the project, what are the what is the progress, what are the blockers, what are the next steps, so that we have a very good understanding of the project and the things we are doing in the project. Okay, then we have, once the sprint is completed, once we have got to the end of the sprint, we complete the sprint and do sprint review meetings. And in this meeting we can demonstrate, the team members demonstrate their complete items to the team and the stakeholders. Here we can also discuss the feedback, we can take the feedback, and if necessary we can also do some adjustment in the product backlog based on these inputs. Okay, then after this we do a sprint retrospective meeting. Here the Scrum team meets and they discuss that what went well in the sprint, what could be improved, and then we can also document all this learning in Jira or Confluence. And then based on this, based on the output of this retrospective analysis, this meeting, we can also adjust the items in the product backlog. We can add new issues or we can update existing issues. So we can also adjust the product backlog based on these feedback and these meetings. Okay, so this is what we do in a Scrum project. So this is what a Scrum project looks like. Now let us see practically how do we plan all of this, how do we do all of this in Jira. So step number one is we will go to project setup, and here we will create a Scrum project. You can also use an existing Scrum project, but let's create a new Scrum project. So log into your Jira account. I am already on my Jira, and here let us go to projects, and I will go to create project. Now here I will go to software development and I will select the Scrum project here. So we are using Scrum and I will say use template. Then we have to choose a project type. Here we have team managed and company managed. I will select team managed project. You can go with any one. Now let's say we have to give a project name. So I will say I want to create a project to create a to-do list app. Okay, this is what we are going to do in the project. So I will click on next, and this will create a Scrum project for us. Okay, so you can follow this along with me with hands-on, and whenever you have any doubts, any questions, you can let me know. So this project is created here. This is the project board. Okay, and we have already seen all this, that this is the workflow. Whenever the issue is created, it will be in to do status, then it will go to in progress, then done. If you want to add more statuses or more steps in the workflow, we can do from here, or we can also go from here and say manage workflow. Also the issue types, if you want, we can go to project settings and go to issue types, and here you can see these are all the issue types available for this project. If you want, we can add more issue types, and then we can go to any of the issue type, like say story, and we can see all the fields that will be available in this particular issue type, that is story. And if you want to add or customize any fields, we can do it from here. So I'm not going into detail of all of this. This all we have seen in detail in the earlier sessions. Let me go back to the project. So we have done step number one, creating a Scrum project, and we have also checked the project board. So this is the project board, and as of now everything is empty here. Okay, now we will go to the backlog, and then we will create the issues to cover the requirements of the project. So we will create stories, bugs, tasks based on whatever we have the requirements, and then we will add everything in the backlog. So you can either go to timeline or backlog. If you go to timeline, you can keep on creating issues and epics and issues from here, and then go to backlog, and then you can check all of them. With this we have already seen in the issues session. I will go to backlog now. Let me do it from backlog this time, and here you can see we have backlog. Okay, so we have backlog, and we already have this sprint one here, which is not yet planned or started. So as of now I will just go to backlog and I will click on create issue. Okay, so let us see what we have to do. Now you can also create issues from here. So you can click on here and then you can create the issues, and then everything will come here in the backlog, or you can go to timeline and then you can create epics and then issues, or you can go to backlog. So all of this will work. Okay, so here for now, let me first go to timeline and just create a epic first. And let me say the epic is user account management. Okay, so this epic is created, and I will now go to backlog and I will click on this create issue, and here you can see we can create a bug, story, task, etc. I'll just create a story first here, and I will say the story is design the app UI. So this can be one story. We can add more stories or tasks here. So let us say I will say one more story, set up backend APIs for user account creation, and I will also say set up user verification. So this can be stories. Now these stories can have more tasks inside them, so that you can say for designing the app UI what all things you have to do. You can have more stories, more tasks here inside this story. So you can always go to this story and you can click on add and select child issues. Okay, so you can create subtasks here. So you can say here, let's say I'll say create the design document, and we can have more tasks like this. Okay, and let us say I can also create tasks here like this and say design login page UI. So it can be bug, story, task, they can be subtasks and so on. And here you can see we also have option to add it to a epic. So I will link all of these to the epic that we created, that is user account management. Okay, so this is how we will keep on adding the issues to cover the requirements of the project. Okay, now after this, the next thing we have to do is we have to create the sprint. So you can see here we have option to create sprint. So I can click here create sprint. So you can see the sprint will get created. So we already have here sprint one is already here. As I will keep on clicking the create sprint button, it will keep on creating more sprints. So for now I will now drag and drop the issues from the backlog to the sprint. So let us say this story I want to move to sprint 1. So I will move it like this. Okay, and then let me try this, like I will, you can drag and drop, or you can also just go to this and say move to sprint 1. So these things I will move to, I will also move this to sprint 1. You can see it is getting added to sprint 1, and let us say this I will add to sprint 2, and I will create, let us say, one more story here, and I will say as a user I want to add and view my to-do list items. Okay, all right, so let me just move this one to sprint 2, and one story I am keeping it as it is in the backlog. So you can now see we have planned the sprints. In sprint 1 we have some things to do, some user stories, tasks, or whatever based on the project requirements. Now see, as of now I am not focusing on how we design the stories, how do we add tasks. Generally a user story is something like, as a user I want to do this, and then we have more subtasks in that user story that will have some more detailed task that will complete that particular scenario or user story. Okay, so this is how we will keep on creating the backlog and then adding to the sprints, and this is how we will plan the sprint. Okay, now we can also assign story points which will help us to understand the complexity of each task. So here in the backlog, let's say you have items in the backlog. I will say here one more thing, one more story. Let's say as a user, I want to edit tasks in my to-do list, and I will add one more. As a user, I want to delete tasks in my to-do list. Okay, now you can also move these items up or down, so that if you want to set the priority, you can move them up or down, and you can also do it from here. You can say move up, move down. So this is how you can say that this is of higher priority, this is of lesser higher priority, and so on. I can also add these to this epic. Okay, and then you can go to these issues, you can open these issues, and then you can check here, you can find the story points. So here you can give the story points. For example, for a simple thing you can give story point 1 or 2. For a little more complex you can say 4, 5, and so on. You can keep on adding the story points here. Okay, so all this will be useful in estimating the effort and the time required and the complexity, etc. Now after this we can review and start the sprint. So you can check the sprint. So this is our sprint number 1. You can check that what all things we have to do. You can discuss with the teams, you can assign the things and tasks and stories to the team, the issues to the team, and discuss that this is what we have to do and this is what we can do in this particular sprint. And you can also set the duration, etc. So if you go to these 3 dots, you can see edit sprint, and here we have options to give the sprint name. If you want to change the sprint name, you can give it here. We can add the duration, define the duration of the sprint, start date, end date, and the sprint goal as well. Okay, so you can do it from here, or when you will click on start sprint, you will get this. So here I am saying this is of 1 week, and I will say complete the UI interface of the app. Okay, so this is what we have to do in this particular sprint, and I will say start. So as you will say start, you can see on the board we have got sprint 1, and as of now everything is available in to do section. And as you will work in the sprint, the team members will work on these tasks, these issues, and they will keep on updating the tasks. So you can move it wherever they want to, and this is how it will work. Let's say I will move this to here, and this I will move to done. So you will keep on updating it. Okay, so we have done start sprint, we have reviewed the sprint, started the sprint, we have defined the goal and the length of the sprint. Okay, now we come to the execution part. So here, based on the length of the sprint, whatever is your duration of the sprint, the team will keep on working on their tasks, their issues. They will update the issues as they complete the task, or whatever things they have to do, they will keep on updating, and that all will be reflected on the Jira boards. And then here we also have daily stand-up meetings, where the team members meet and they discuss the progress, what they have done, what is left, what are the any blockers, what are the next steps. So all this we will be doing daily stand-up meetings. Now after the sprint, we complete the sprint, and then we check on the Jira board whatever is done. So here, let's say after this I will complete the sprint. Here we have the complete sprint button, so I'll say complete sprint. Now here you can see as of now we have one issue complete and one open issues that was in progress. So here it says, do you want to move the open issue to the sprint 2, or you want to go to move it back to the backlog, or you want to add it to a new sprint. So I will just say I want to move it to the sprint 2, and then I will complete the sprint. Okay, so you can see here our sprint 1 is completed, and here we have now sprint 2, and the issue that was left in sprint 1 has also been added here, and now I can start sprint 2. So I will now click on start here. I will say 1 week, and I will say design and develop the app backend, and I will say start. So again, the team will work on the issues. So this is how they will keep on working on the issues and updating the statuses and everything. Okay, and then again this they will complete it, and then here I will say it is saying sprint cannot be completed as there are incomplete subtasks on the following issues. So here you will go to this particular issue. There was a subtask here, and I will go to this subtask, and let me just complete this, and I will go back to the board, and I will say complete sprint. Now here it is saying there is still one open issue. If you want to move it to a new sprint or backlog, I will say backlog and complete this sprint as well. So this is how a Scrum team will work in sprints. And then after every sprint, we have a sprint review meeting where we can demonstrate all the work we have done to the stakeholders. Here we can collect the feedback, and then based on the feedback and the inputs, we can also adjust the product backlog. We may have to add some more issues, we may have to update some issues or move some issues, all that we do in this phase. And then after every sprint, we also do a sprint retrospective meeting with the Scrum team members. Here we discuss what went well, what was not very good, what can be improved, and all these learnings we can then document in the Confluence or Jira, and then based on the analysis we can also update our backlog, and then again move to the new sprint, and we will repeat all these steps for every sprint. And then finally, when we have completed all the sprints and completed everything, we can then complete and close the project. And then once we have completed the sprints and the project, we can go to reports. So you will find a reports option here. If you don't see a reports option, you can go to project settings and go to features and search for reports. So make it on from here and go back to the project. You will find a reports option here. So you can see we have reports here now, and you can go to reports, and here you can see there are a lot of reports. We have burn up report, sprint burn down chart is here, velocity report. So you can see here in the burnout chart we can track the remaining work within a sprint. After the sprint is done, what is the remaining work? Then we can have velocity report. Here we can predict based on our work we have done in the sprints, we can predict the amount of work we can commit for future sprints. Then we have this flow diagram, cycle time report. So you can see all these reports are here. Now as of now, because we don't have a lot of data and we have just created the issues and finished and completed the issues, we will not see a lot of data in these reports. But in real world you will find these reports and all these diagrams and these boards very useful. So you can check, there are a lot of things we can check here. Okay, so this is what we do after every sprint and also after the project. So this is how do we plan a complete Scrum project. These are the steps we do. We have seen theoretically and practically how do we do it in Jira. I hope this was very useful. I will see you in the next session. Thank you for watching, and never stop learning.